Welcome back to Spilling the Tea podcast with Kiki and Haylin.
And this is episode 22. Hi guys, as you know, we always have Boston CEO researching for the stats, but we are here today to talk about how we slay imposter syndrome.
What is imposter syndrome?
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I'm gonna give you guys the explanation Matt gave me when he was in 5th grade.
Cute.
One day I was talking to him.
I didn't even hear this.
Yeah, well, you're able to find out. One day I was picking up, and for context, before I started working at Spill the Tea Cafe, I was actually Haylin's nanny. But anyway, one day.
For 5 years.
For 5 years.
And she has many transferable skills. By the way, all moms, let me tell you, they're all CEOs of their own household, okay? Why are you laughing, babe? It's for real. Like, a house manager costs $100,000, and every mom is a house manager. Anyway,
Period.
okay.
But yeah, I was picking up Maddie one day from school, and he used to be a big fan, or I think he still is, of Harry Potter. And I was very excited to share with him that I had watched out 8 movies. If you ask me now, I don't remember anything. But we were talking about Harry Potter, and he was telling me that Harry actually had imposter syndrome. And I was like, what is this 5th grader talking about? What is imposter syndrome? So I was like, man, what is imposter syndrome? And he's like, well, you know, it's like when you kind of feel like you don't deserve being there, or when you do some type of work and you feel like you just did it out of luck, or basically just saying that your achievements, you didn't deserve them, or you were not supposed to be in that room. But what really imposter syndrome means? Can you tell us?
Sure. So imposter syndrome really affects women, underrepresented people. A lot of times we see it in career. Basically, we have all of the appropriate skills to excel at our career or whatever it is. Maybe we want to start a new business. Maybe we want to ask for a raise. Maybe we want to, I don't know, be a stay-at-home mom. However, we don't feel like we deserve it or we're qualified. So it's kind of like a thought distortion in a way.
And if you don't know what a thought distortion is, make sure you go to our latest episode and find that out.
Is there a time that you have experienced imposter syndrome being a woman?
Oh my God, all the time. But I think the most recent one was when Spill the Tea Cafe actually got sent out to Miami. This was a couple months ago, early in the summer. We got an email that they were gonna fly out someone from the leadership to Miami for this amazing 1-week summit. Shout out to the Elevate Foundation for making good famous. But basically it was a 1-week summit where people from all over the globe, like I'm telling you, not just America, I was able to meet people from Africa, from Europe. It was amazing. But it was basically a 1-week summit where other leaders from nonprofit organizations got together to network, to brainstorm, share about each other's experiences, you know, what worked out for them, what didn't work out for them. They had amazing breakout sessions. And I remember Haylin waking me up that morning and she was like, oh my God, you gotta go to Miami. And I was like, you are crazy. I'm not gonna go to Miami.
Typically in the first few years, I'll do all the, what is it called?
Like the big like face-facing events, or like face-facing like speaking engagements, or like anything big where you had to put your face out there. Haylin would always do it. And that one morning, I don't know what happened. She woke up and she was like, you gotta go to Miami. And I was like, I am not gonna go to Miami. And she was like, no, you have to go. It's gonna be a great opportunity, lots of learning experience. And I was like, no, like, you know, I don't think I should be there. That's gonna be a place where
I know. Also, like CNN was interviewing.
Oh yeah,
like bigger.
Yeah, CNN was gonna be there. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna go there. I'm gonna stay back. You go there, you go kill it. And she was like, no, you're gonna go. So I ended up going, but the weeks that were leading up to the event, that whole time I was like, no, I don't think I should go. I don't deserve being there. I'm so young. I was actually the youngest Latina in the whole summit. So for me, it was like, you don't deserve being there. You don't have the experience to be there. Being ESL was also a barrier for me because I was like, oh my gosh, when CNN starts interviewing me, am I gonna have the right words? Am I gonna have the right definitions? Am I gonna know what I'm talking about? For those that know a little bit about my background, when I was a nanny, I was actually getting my degree in biology. So it's like, it's not like I'm a licensed mental health counselor, even though I know a lot of mental health clinic. So I just automatically went into this thought distortion of I don't deserve being there. And I'm actually glad that I went because I was able to represent Spill the Tea Cafe very highly. I made amazing connections with the people at CNN. Yeah. When I had the opportunity to, speak to people and speak on stage, I actually did pretty good. So I'm really proud of that. And I learned a lot. Another thing that happened in Miami is that the Elevate Foundation paid for all of it, and they placed us at this like very luxurious like hotel. And me, someone that doesn't come from wealth, for me, I felt like I didn't even belong in that hotel. I was like, oh my God, I just want to stay in my room. I don't want to walk out because it's too fancy for me. And then after the week was over, like my whole mindset had completely changed because I reminded myself that the reason why Haylin sent you is because she knows you have the skills and you have the capability of showing up and stepping into your power and owning your space. So I'm really glad I went, but that was one of the many imposter syndrome experiences I have had. What about you?
I was so proud of Kiki. That was so cool, like that whole experience.
Thank you.
And you really leveled up. And I think that you built your own kind of self-trust on that trip. And so now like you're much more confident. And I think I wanted to share, I've also been through many, many experiences of imposter syndrome. And sometimes I feel a little embarrassed to share how much imposter syndrome I have because I really do try to lead in a way that others want to follow. And I do try my best, although it can be difficult, to bring my authentic self to work while still trying to be professional. And even with all of that effort, I still would, for instance, be in a boardroom full of all males and similarly like be the youngest one there. People say crazy stuff. Like I've been told the only reason why you're here right now is because you're a young, attractive female. Like I'm not just imagining these things. Like a lot of times we as women are actually, and not just women, right? Like especially any marginalized group, especially LGBTQI plus youth, we are experiencing actual discrimination, and a lot of times it can increase the imposter syndrome. So I know that during that time in my younger years, it really did impact me. Like I would cry, like I would feel defeated. I would feel like I want to give up. And I really had to work through that and understand that that was a projection of other people being put onto me. And again, not giving up, like being persistent, being able to rise above that. And really what that means is just continuing to do your job or continuing to do the task at hand, even feeling imposter syndrome or even having negative comments thrown at you, which is a very difficult, muscle to actually develop. That was at the VA where I was running a suicide prevention program. And unfortunately, that work I loved so much, but it was such heavy work and I couldn't stay there forever. And especially
quitting a job that's toxic for you is also a method of self-care. So
right. And I guess I see it multiple times as a pattern in my career, the imposter syndrome. And we could go on and on, but it's really important that we as women especially, and then also like marginalized communities, that we do make a change in this community, we do make a change in the society. And the way that we do that is we need to continuously fight for a seat at that table. And if the system doesn't allow us to have a seat at that table, then we are responsible to build our own table, which is what we've done.
Period. Which is exactly what we're doing right now.
Yeah, and it is scary, I also think when I first started working with physicians about
I remember that.
Maybe 10 years ago, or actually more recently, when I've been doing more work with medical, like the medical system, it was very scary at first because let me just say it, if you don't have an MD after your name, which I don't, I'm not a medical doctor, by the way.
And I think it's funny because your clients are like, can I see Dr. Haylin? I'm like, oh my God.
Thank you for upgrading me to a physician. However, that was also not a thought distortion. There was evidence for that. So people telling me, hey, can you not speak up in these meetings because you're not a physician? Can you not speak on that because you're not a physician? All of these kind of maybe microaggressions that were happening. It's important to not be fazed by that. It's important, it will faze you, but it will not defeat you. I guess it's really important to not be defeated and to not give up. Something that really helped me throughout that time a few years back was to really remind myself that although I don't know every organ in the body or the systems, I don't know so much about so much, but what I do know is regarding mental health. And I've been officially and I guess formally studying mental health for the past 20 years, but even prior to that, I think I have lived experience with mental health. And so therefore, I'm actually a badass at mental health.
Yeah, because your background is your superpower, right?
Right? And so I can teach physicians about mental health. I can't teach them about medicine, but I can teach them about mental health. And so that helps me, right, with that imposter syndrome, even to the point where I had to put a Post-it above my computer saying you are a badass at mental health or you are an expert at mental health during those years, because every time my nervous system would get activated in these meetings, I could just see that right there to trigger my memory. Hey, you got this? You know what you're talking about in this specific little area.
I love that. I think another episode of my imposter syndrome, and I'm still working through it, is that, as a young female, it's very hard for me to see myself as a supervisor. And
okay.
Something that really helped is that we actually had this exercise that you did for our annual staff retreat, where everyone went behind every single person, wrote something positive about them. And I remember looking at my card and just seeing all the amazing people had to say about me as a supervisor. And I actually have that in my mirror every single morning before I go to work. When I'm getting ready, I always read it.
That's too cute. I love that. Yes, it's about reframing. And what is reframing?
Reframing is, for example, I always have to give an example, but it's just pretty much just kind of going around it and changing the perspective.
Right. If you think, oh my God, I'm so young, I shouldn't be a supervisor, I'm not a good supervisor or whatever, what's the reframe?
I have the skills to be a supervisor. I'm a great leader. My team is very appreciated for the work that I do. I deserve being here. I'm doing great work.
Exactly. Good. And sometimes people feel like reframing is gaslighting, but the difference between reframing and gaslighting yourself, right, is that reframing is something you actually believe. So a tip for everyone, if you're trying to reframe imposter syndrome, if you don't actually believe it, then it's not going to work for you, right? So if you're saying, oh, I'm too young to be a leader, but at the same time, I'm a great leader. And if you don't fully believe that, it's not gonna work for you. Similarly, I can't go from, oh, I'm the worst mom to, oh, I'm the best mom, right? But instead, a reframe is something that you can believe, and it's just bringing it to be a little bit more neutral. So instead of, I'm the worst mom, I can say something that I actually believe. It's not gonna be, oh, you're the best mom. And I should say why. Because I struggle with this because my mom and my grandma were very hands-on stay-at-home moms, and I'm a working mom. So this is why some of this thought distortion continues to haunt me. But what I would say instead is, I'm not gonna say you're the worst mom. I'm not gonna say you're the best mom. But what I'm gonna say is you opening this nonprofit, you opening a business, you leaving a toxic job that was not serving you anymore. This is showing your children that they have options, and this is showing or modeling for your children that maybe they can achieve financial stability as well without having to stay in a place that they don't feel is a healthy environment for them. So that reframe is something I can believe right now as I work up to feel like, okay, you're the best mom. And there are moments where I feel like, yes, you're the best mom. There's other moments where I just wish I could stay with my kids 24 hours a day, you know? So in terms of you feeling like maybe you're not qualified to be a supervisor, what would you say is the reframe that you really believe? Like, which one helps you the most?
I think that one of the things that helps me the most is seeing the people stay in the company, you know, like the ones that started when we first opened the clinic until now. And I'm like, actually, I'm a good supervisor
like
because they're sticking around.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like these evidences, I think, contribute to our self-trust.
Yeah.
And so you want to pick something out in your environment that you can really believe, and then that's going to help you. I also sometimes think it's super important to collect a list of these achievements or a list of these wins, because it's so easy to forget your achievements, and it's so easy to forget that, wow, Kiki, you have all these staff like retained probably because of your leadership, but it's easy to forget when the stress is so high at work. So what could we tell our listeners or even our kids at Spill the Tea Cafe if they start to feel like, I'm not able to be in the chess club, I'm not able to take this leadership position, I probably won't get
Build up your confidence. Build up your confidence. If the opportunity is out there for you, grab it and step into your power. And also know that you're gonna make mistakes, because I may think that I'm growing into, you know, a great supervisor, but that has also come with many, many mistakes. You know, like I had to learn the hard way. I had to fall to learn. You know, I had to hit myself against the wall many, many times. So just have confidence that you can do it. Have confidence that you can learn more. And again, if you're in that position, if the opportunity is being given to you, it's because you have what it takes. So believe that.
Right. I think Kiki brings up a really good point about mistakes, because mistakes, even though they might decrease our self-esteem for that moment, if we zoom out and look at the basic concept of learning, mistakes are actually required to become expert at anything.
I had to learn that the hard way. I feel like I was really, really hard with myself and mistakes.
Right. And you actually grew so much in even just that first year. We're so scared of making mistakes, a lot of times from our childhood or from our upbringing, or even that anxiety that we talked about. Sometimes that anxiety is coming from the fear of making a mistake. And so what we want to do again is be able to expose our nervous system to say like, okay, this mistake that I just made, it's not a failure, right? Because I gained an asset out of that mistake, which is a learning. Maybe it's not a financial value, but it's definitely an asset and a value that can turn into a financial value. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, for example, a recent mistake that we made. We sent out information to a foundation thinking it was right, and then it was wrong, and they got back to us and they said many, many things, and we were like, oh, now we're not qualified to do grants. Like, we shouldn't be doing this work. We effed up, you know? But then we have to reframe it and be like, wait, what about the other 5 grant proposals that we've submitted and sent out documents and we actually get awarded for them?
Right.
And now we are able to hold on to that mistake and use it as a stepping stone to do better.
Right,
you know?
right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind sharing. We are so transparent at our company that we just like send everyone like all our financials, like all our, because we have nothing to hide, right? But there are like 2 different sets of rules for for-profit businesses and nonprofit businesses. And we don't know those rules, girl, because they're unwritten, right? It's like, you're not allowed to spend 10 grand on networking a year because you're a nonprofit. You're not, right? Like, but we don't try to recategorize that. We just say, hey, like, this is what we did, this is where we're at. And I'm so proud of us because we used to get so upset and we used to get so devastated, and now we're like, okay, great, like please, we don't really want your funding anyway because you want us to change our whole entire business model, and no thank you, we're just gonna do it ourselves instead.
And I feel like before because of the imposter syndrome, we would try to like kiss like people's, insert a beep here, because we're like, oh my God, they're the only ones that are gonna fund us, you know? But we have to, again, like reframe it and be like, wait, if it doesn't align, it doesn't align. Like,
It doesn't
take your
align,
money,
exactly,
you know?
right. And so all of these experiences with imposter syndrome, it does affect a lot of us. And even with the med students that I work with, right? Like they are arguably the smartest people, and I think definitely the highest valued asset in healthcare.
I agree.
And a lot of times they don't feel that and they don't know that, right? And
they're so hard on themselves.
right. And so across all domains, it doesn't matter, even if you have a lot of money, even if you know, are feeling like you want to become, I don't know, a random like school teacher or counselor or artist or actress, any of these things, there's a level of imposter syndrome that we have to get over, that we have to, basically, we don't have time for imposter syndrome as women and as business owners and as nonprofit leaders because of all of the marginalized youth and all of the problems that our world has. If we spend all our energy on trying to overcome imposter syndrome, it actually takes away the necessary energy needed to move this company forward, right? Like if Kiki and I were just spending all our time spinning at night, and I was really appreciative of you sharing and being honest about like staying up at night about our work, because number one, none of us should have to like stress about work at night. And also it's very common for the entrepreneurial experience to be that way, right? So we're saying both, and as well as that is getting better, meaning those symptoms are decreasing. Like Kiki doesn't have to go through that stress anymore. The same way when I took out the first loan to open this business, I think I had like this stomach issue for 3 days because I was so
Poor thing, she was
anxious.
so
I had so
nauseous.
much imposter syndrome. I was just like, do I even know how to do this? And today that's the least of my worries, but I'm still very anxious about bigger problems than that initial loan. But it's proof to me that, oh wow, like I can get used to these problems and I can make a difference and I can make a bigger impact.
You just have to be persistent.
Even without the traditional belief system around nonprofits and what's allowed and what's not allowed. I really think that if we can overcome imposter syndrome, that really is the gateway to innovation. And so, yeah, I just thank everyone for listening to us today. Did I forget anything? Did we forget anything?
No,
about imposter
not really.
syndrome?
I would
Maybe to the
we
kiddos.
have-
Oh,
yeah.
we should talk, because of Spill the Tea Cafe, we should talk about like the imposter syndrome of like not feeling trans enough and not feeling like they are part of the LGBT community, or they're not, you know, because that's something that
We see a
comes
lot.
up a lot.
Yeah. Like we may have this transgender male that comes to Spill the Tea Cafe, talks to us, and they are currently going through imposter syndrome because maybe they don't look as male as their other peers, you know, maybe don't have those masculine
Traits.
I don't know, traits, you know, like their other peers that have been in transition for over 8 years, and they're like, oh, I don't belong, maybe I'm not trans enough, maybe I shouldn't join a transcend group because I'm not there yet.
Right. Or even we really want to make sure that we can respect and hold space for people's true identity when they're gender fluid or they're non-binary. A lot of times people will just dismiss them and say, well, you're just in the middle, or you can't be bisexual, right? All of these things are binary thinking. And so I really hope that as a community, we don't need to judge people. We can accept them for who they are. And if they want to try out and explore their gender and try to be more affirming with who they feel they are inside, how about we be neutral about it? Right? How about we be supportive about it instead of saying, well, you're gonna get killed or you're gonna get bullied or you're, you know, it's important that the younger we are to feel authentic about exploring our identities, the sooner we can recover in our mental health, the sooner we can become not suicidal anymore, the sooner we can try to thrive and, you know, find hobbies and a fulfilling career. But as long as we have that imposter syndrome about who we are, we can never really fully reach our full potential or reach that self-actualization that we all deserve. So I just hope that we have some takeaways from today. It encourages us to look within and see what parts of ourselves can we maybe shine a little brighter this week. And we will catch you all next week.
See you guys.